God is love. God is love, Jesus' youngest disciple John declared in 1 John 4:8. Jesus said that God's love is a love that changes us. But I say, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. In that way, you will be acting as your true children of your Father in heaven. It says in Matthew 5:44 and 45. This is love of another kind, another order of love, a love that extends to enemies, even murderers, as Ron discovered while bathed in God's love. But it's hard for us to grasp what the words God is love truly mean and how that truth can shape who we become. I believe NDEs are God's gift to fill in with color the black and white words written in Scripture. Scripture reveals God's character and helps us understand God's love. NDEs can help us imagine what all of that means as we try to relate to God today. The Apostle Paul, who wrote many of the New Testament books, may have had an NDE. When Paul went to the Roman colony of Lystra, the crowd turned on him. They stoned Paul and dragged him out of town, thinking he was dead. But as the believers gathered around him, he got up. Paul later wrote, I was caught up to the third heaven 14 years ago. Whether I was in my body or out of my body, I don't know. Only God knows. But I do know that I was caught up to paradise and heard things so astounding that they cannot be expressed in words, things no human is allowed to tell. This is from 2 Corinthians 12:2-4. Paul says what NDEers commonly report, that they are not allowed to either retain or retell all the knowledge they received. Paul also described the inexpressibly great love of God he wanted everyone to experience. I pray that from God's glorious, unlimited resources, he will empower you with inner strength through his Spirit. Then Christ will make his home in your hearts as you trust in him. Your roots will grow down into God's love and keep you strong. And may you have the power to understand, as all God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep his love is. May you experience the love of Christ, though it is too great to fully understand. Ephesians 3:16-19. The deeper our understanding of God's unfathomable love, the greater our trust. The greater our trust, the more we will experience the powerful reality of this transforming love and life today. And it starts with understanding the greatest love story ever told. The greatest love story ever told. The Bible is a love story from start to finish, though it can be easy to miss this meta-narrative, given all the accounts the Bible also includes of humanity's cruelties, betrayals, wars, and brutally honest history. We have to remember that the Bible is written in 66 books and contains thousands of years of human history, which means it covers a lot of ups and downs in God's relationship with human beings. The story starts with God creating people for his love. Relationship has always been God's motive, but maintaining loving relationship seems to complicate God's life just as it does ours. So in God's love story, inscribed across biblical history, we find rejected love, broken promises, betrayal, and divorce, as well as sacrificial love, loyalty, forgiveness, and reconciliation. The culmination of the whole story is a great wedding, as we will see. It's a strange, mysterious, but powerfully wonderful love story. God's grand story li- God's grand story shines light on many questions we all inevitably have that leave us in the dark. Like why God sometimes seems so reluctant to intervene. The more we understand the uniting thread of God's love story, God's motives, and God's loving character, the more we will trust him. As we trace God's love story in the chapters that follow, you will see how NDEs today confirm the story that has been telling from the dawn of creation. God's love story starts with God, the person. And God is personal. God is not a force, nor is God the universe. As Ron told me, the universe is nothing compared to God. NDEers do not describe some impersonal feeling, but the love of a person, even when their personal views, faith traditions, or culture should have led them to expect an impersonal force or nothing at all beyond this life. Just ask Chen. Chen joined the Chinese Communist Party in college, as all good Chinese students did. She did not believe in God, yet she confesses, I had an NDE, and it has changed me completely. When Chen clinically died from an allergic reaction to penicillin, she found herself leaving her body. I dropped into a dark tunnel, rushing with an incredible speed. I was extremely frightened because I didn't know what happened to me. I couldn't imagine why I did not lose my consciousness and why I still existed. However, my fear gradually disappeared. I felt myself floating somewhere, and it was comfortable. An indescribable stream of consciousness was accompanying me. He gave me the answer to my every question, and he comforted my frightened heart. I didn't know how to describe him. He had no shape or voice, but he was bright and broad-minded, warm and gentle. He could answer every question. He surrounded me and guided me. He communicated with me through telepathy. I was no longer in the tunnel, but I was in the bright, warm world. I felt a complete relief from pain and suffering. I felt the existence of everlasting harmony and happiness. Chen experienced this very personal God she hadn't expected. Although she refers to God as a stream of consciousness, she also uses the personal pronoun he to describe his personal nature. God has consistently revealed himself in intimate and personal ways throughout history. God has characteristics we associate with personality, such as intellect in Jeremiah 29:11 and will in Matthew 6:10. He is described as having senses such as seeing in 2 Chronicles 16:9 and hearing, Genesis 16:11. He experiences emotions including grief, Isaiah 63:10, regret, Genesis 6:6, anger, Deuteronomy 31:29, jealousy, Exodus 34:14, and compassion, Joel 2:13. He is creative, Psalm 148:4-5, humble, Matthew 11:29, and loyal, Isaiah 44:21-22. Theologians often call these characteristics anthropomorphic, which Webster's dictionary defines as ascribing human characteristics to non-human things. But saying this can almost depersonalize God. Yes, God transcends our human characteristics, but we are created by God and in the image of God. So all our human characteristics are derived from something greater than us, not less than us. God is not less personal. He is actually more personal than we are. And NDEers who encounter God confirm this. Dean Braxton, a youth probation supervisor, became septic during a routine kidney stone procedure that led to an hour and 45 minutes of clinical death. He found himself in a heavenly field of gorgeous grass and flowers on the edge of a forest. After walking through the forest, which he described as being more like gliding, he discovered that God's love is intimately personal. As I went through the forest, it seemed like everything in the forest was saying to me, "He's going to see the King." When I got on the other side of the forest, that's when I saw Jesus Christ. He was really bright, brighter than any light I've ever seen, even the sun. He was glowing. It was a bright white light. He was standing in a field, and before him were many beings. I don't know if it was thousands or millions. Some were angels, and some were people that had been on this planet. He was addressing them, like a big crowd before him. I came up on the side of him. I looked at his feet, and when I looked at his feet, I saw the holes, not in the feet, but the ankles, in the talocrural joint. All I could think of was, "You did this for me." I dropped to my knees saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." I remember thinking to myself, his feet love me. It was like I was literally receiving the fullness of the love of God through the feet of Jesus. Then I started looking up, and every portion of him was loving me. His entire being loved me. What got me was he only loved me. I knew he loved the others, but it seemed like he only loved me. When I finally looked at him, his eyes met my eyes. I remember looking into his eyes thinking, he loves me so much. By the time I'm thinking of him loving me, it's old news because he even loves me more. I used to think he just loves you and that was it, but it's a growing love every moment, uniquely for you. When God's love story began, God created us saying, "Let us make human beings in our image to be like us." Genesis 1:26. The use of the word us may seem like a strange choice because God revealed that there is only one God, Deuteronomy 6:4. Yet from the beginning, God refers to himself in the plural for a reason which we will later explore. God also revealed that his image is reflected in both male and female. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern it." God created humanity in plurality, male and female, for relationship with God, because God is a relationship of love. God is neither male nor female, but male and female together reflect the image of God. Genesis 5:1-2. Especially when united as one, Genesis 2:24. You and I were created for a unique relationship with God, a relationship of love, unity, and co-creating with God. Unlike any other species, human beings have the capacity to create, care for, and develop God's creation in loving partnership with God. The only problem is that human love can't be guaranteed. It's risky.